Hi, everyone. I'm Joe Danneman, standing outside of Paycor Stadium where we start training camp week with an episode that features interviews with some of the biggest decision makers with the Cincinnati Bengals. In this episode, you'll hear interviews with Bengals team owner Mike Brown, Bengals head coach Zach Taylor, and also offensive coordinator Dan Pitcher and new defensive coordinator Al Golden. I was told by Duke Tobin 2 days before training camp that he believes this is a championship roster in 2025. But it's also the core of a roster that did not make the playoffs the last 2 seasons. That's the backdrop as the Cincinnati Bengals open up training camp, and we open up this episode with our interview with Bengals team owner Mike Brown. Do you believe this roster, as you go into this season, can win a championship?
Well, we have to prove it. And I grew up in a coach's family, and my dad, who was a coach, spent all his time not trying to raise expectations. That was dangerous to do that. And I was taught that that's how you ought to behave when this question is presented, not declare victory before you've assembled to start the training camp. I think we have good players. So does Baltimore, so does Pittsburgh, and so does Cleveland. We have to prove that we're better than they are. We're going to try. In my heart, I like to think we can do that, but I know how difficult it is. And that's about all I'm going to say on it.
How much involvement do you still have on personnel decisions for the players?
Well, when we do well, a lot. I stay involved. I've tried to shift responsibility as the years have piled on, and I've pretty well done that. In the play, I don't coach the team. I don't necessarily pick the players. I have a voice, but it is a noise. The guy I would pick might be someone different. It's proper that I accept that. But I do have a voice still, and I do enjoy that part of it. It's fun for me. I really like seeing the new guys when they show up, and I get all excited inside. I try not to show it, but I really really interested in how they're going to do. I think we have some good ones this year, and we obviously have one more to figure out, but we'll get it done, I think, at some point.
Like, where are you all at right now in terms of negotiations with Trey Hendrickson?
Well, we're working at it. I came over here, and we have people back in our office who are sharpening their pencils and trying to figure that out as I speak here. It has been a long negotiation. Trey Hendrickson is a fine player. He's a good guy. We want him here. Dealing with him is sometimes not so easy. That's all right. He's got the right to argue his case. We'll try to make sense of it from our perspective, and we'll see. I'm not persuaded that it isn't going to get done. As far as I'm concerned, the sooner the better.
Do you think Trey deserves a raise?
We offered him one, but keep in mind, Trey signed for this season. But foolishly, maybe we offered him one, but a raise. But anyway, he deserves a raise. He did well, and he played effectively. He's important to us.
You've negotiated a lot of rookie contracts in your time at your job. Is Shemar Stewart's unique in how you're having to handle this? Because there is some new language in the deal. Does this one feel unique?
This one is surprising. I hesitate to get into the detail, but basically it turns on whether out years are guaranteed if he gets involved in conduct detrimental to football. Well, what does that mean? Detrimental to football in recent years has been violence to women. That's about the one that comes to mind. There are others probably, but that's the one that I think of. Well, if we get a player who gets involved in something like that or does something that is just unacceptable, guess what? I don't want to pay him. I really don't. If he's sitting in jail, I don't think I ought to be paying him. And so we say that if he got involved in conduct detrimental, we'd have the right to terminate the guaranteed part for the back years. He says, or his agent says, oh no, you can terminate the guaranteed part only for the remaining part of the year in which the event occurs. Oddly, something like this has never occurred in my memory with us. I don't think it's going to occur. So we're sitting here arguing over something that I think is pretty remote, and I ask myself sometimes why the hell we're doing it, but we are, and he's doing it too, and at some point we got to put this stuff behind and just get him signed and get him up here and get him so he can be a contributor. He needs to get underway soon. It doesn't help him or us to have this strung out.
Mike, where is the team at with negotiations with the stadium itself, and how important is it for this team to stay here in Cincinnati?
Where do things stand with the stadium negotiation, and how important is it to stay in Cincinnati?
The stadium negotiations are ongoing, but we are in a position, according to the county, that we're within the generality of what other NFL teams' deals are that have comparable situations to ours. So we're just talking about finishing up some of these points, but that are, I don't think, something that's going to set the deal upside down. But it isn't done yet. It needs to be done by the end of the month. That's 10 days. And I think it will be. We want to be here. We haven't done anything that would indicate that we wanted to go somewhere else. This is our home. My kids, who now are the ones that actually control the team legally, I don't, they want to stay here. This is where they were born, or Katie came here when she was 3. It's the only city she knows. My son was born here. And they like this. This is their hometown. I like it. I'm very comfortable in Cincinnati. It is a small market, but we've been able to keep it working, and the rules are such that it is possible. We aren't looking to move. We don't plan to move. We want to have a deal that we can make work here, and that's what's being negotiated now, and I think it'll get done, and we'll stay here, and I'll be happy about it.
Mike, when you hear people in the outside world, whether it's football fans or the media, when they share the opinion that they think the Bengals are cheap or the Bengals don't want to spend money as an organization, what's your response to that?
Oh, it's just a form of foolishness. We deal with the media, and the media says things. A lot of what they say is really on point and helpful, and sometimes what they say is invalid, not true, just opinion of someone who isn't informed. That pretty well falls into that question you ask, in my opinion, would fall into the latter department, because we operate under a cap system. We pay out the last couple years more than the cap, so that reduces what we can pay in the future. But that isn't being cheap. It's just trying to make the system operate the way we can. Sometimes we paid out so much in the cap system that it makes it hard to form up a contract for someone at the end of the negotiating period. The money's already been paid to others. That influences what we can pay. But it isn't a question of being cheap. We will pay out the full cap and go forward. As far as the stadium is concerned, our deal is within the generality of what other deals are for NFL teams in markets similar to ours that have stadiums similar to ours. We pay out as much as the other teams do. It's just talk by people that really don't understand the system or us. And I don't pay much attention to it, and it doesn't bother me much.
That was team owner Mike Brown. We now transition to our conversation with Bengals head coach Zac Taylor, entering year number 7 in that position here in Cincinnati. And it certainly does feel like there's a little bit of pressure on Zac Taylor, maybe a lot of urgency for him to get this team back to the playoffs after missing the last 2 seasons. He certainly feels it. He made the changes. The big change was a new defensive coordinator here in Cincinnati, and he's talked so much about this team getting off to a faster start this season to help them later in the year separate themselves and make it back to the playoffs. Here is our conversation with Bengals head coach Zac Taylor. You have mentioned several times in the offseason the idea of a faster start. Is there anything tangible you're going to be changing at training camp to help this team play better at the start of the season?
I think practicing in the morning is a big change for us. You know, it changes the whole schedule of the day and how we install and how we walk through. And so waking up in the morning, getting out of bed, getting yourself ready to go, because we got to start fast in order to have a great practice. So there will be some themes that we have kind of throughout our meetings and stuff we do that I won't openly talk about. But that'll allow those guys to have kind of a good mindset going through training camp as we approach Cleveland.
Will that be an emphasis?
Well,
starting fast?
I mean, it's mentioned, yes, but we got to take care of our own business so that we've got the installs down. We've had great practices. Our guys have developed. We've developed that team chemistry, and then that'll lead us to our best performance in week 1.
What was the final reason that you ultimately decided to switch to the mornings for?
I think it's a good change of pace. Just because we've done it the same way for 6 years doesn't mean we got to continue to do it. So I think it's good for everybody to be a little bit uncomfortable. You know, us coaches that have been here a long time, players that have been here a long time, changing up the whole rhythm of the schedule in training camp, I think is a good thing. It keeps everyone on their toes. You feel like you're kind of going through it for the first time to an extent. And it'll be good to get the weather and the fans, when they come out to practice, the weather will be a little bit better for them. And then it allows us to walk through at night and review some things that happened, get our install in for the next day. So I like the rhythm of what we're about to do.
Are you a morning person?
I am a morning person way more than I am a night person, yes.
Do you get any flack from players moving it that
No,
early?
no, I think they're all on board with it and looking forward to it.
One thing that Ted said after the mandatory camp was that he thought that the play in the trenches was more physical in OTAs and mini camps than it had been in the past. Is that something that's going to continue in training camp?
Sure. Once we put the pads on, we expect that. Without the pads on, Ted is usually the leading culprit in it being too physical with no pads on. But I'm excited that our guys are just excited to get out there and practice. And they're excited to go compete against each other. It'll be a good thing when we're able to put on the pads and get new guys out there like TJ and some of the new offensive linemen we got going head-to-head. It will be fun matchups to watch.
Is the plan for starters to play more in preseason games this year?
It is, yeah. And again, we'll take it game-by-game basis on how our team is at that moment. But absolutely, as I sit here today, our plan is to play those guys a lot more than we have in the past.
How much communication have you had with Shemar, and do you expect him to be here for practice on Wednesday?
We'll see. I mean, it's only Monday right now. I've talked to him. Jerry's talked to him. You know, so we've always had good conversations with Shemar, and we'll see where it goes over the course of this next couple of days.
How critical is it for him to be here practicing, considering how much he missed in the off-season workouts?
It's pretty critical.
Yeah.
I mean, the physical part of things you can't replace. And, you know, we got a physical game week 1 against Cleveland that we need our entire team to be ready for. And so to get in here and strap the pads on, and it is different. The meetings are great. He's a smart guy, but to be able to go out there and process it live as we're doing it, as there's adjustments being made, that's a whole different ball game, and look forward to getting him up to speed on that.
You expect
right now, so we'll see where it lands on Wednesday.
How's BJ Hill?
Good. We're slow to go with BJ, and he's had a great process through the spring, through the summer. He's a veteran player. We've seen what we need to see from BJ. We'll really take care of him over the course of training camp. So again, I like where BJ is at. We'll continue to limit him, especially early on. And then even as we get into training camp as a whole, he'll probably be a one day on, one day off guy that we'll really take care of.
With Trey, as you said, it's only Monday. He could very well be here practicing on Wednesday. If he's not, is there anything you took from how you handled what was happening with Shemar last year and kind of apply that to this year on how to handle a big name guy who's there, who's maybe present, or if he's not here, the distraction that comes with that?
I think every situation is unique. That is what I have learned. They're not cookie cutter situations from year to year. Every situation is unique.
Do you have a thought for how quickly you would like to identify your starters on the offensive line?
I don't have a timeline on it. I think it's good to have the competition. Some guys may settle in as camp really goes and have their best foot forward. So I think it'd be foolish of me to put a deadline on it. And so, again, I look forward to seeing those guys compete through the preseason games, as many as it takes before we really know what direction we'll head.
Big change on defense, coming with a new coordinator. Much are you looking forward to watching Al in a training camp setting really start to put his fingerprints on what's going to be different this year?
I'm excited. We've had a great spring, last 6 months with Al really. There's not really a surprise element for me because I've been in the building with him for a 2-year period, seen him coach a position, watched him from afar at Notre Dame. So really feel like I got a really good sense for what we're going to get there. Really proud of the position coaches that have come on board, the guys that were retained, the guys that he's brought in. I just feel like that really looking forward to see how that unit does in training camp. They'll be ready.
Coach, how you doing?
Doing great.
Considering the slow starts over the recent years, how, if any, have you changed your schedule starting practices?
Yeah, so we'll practice in the morning right now. That's a big change for training camp. Normally we practice in the afternoon. So I look forward to the guys getting out of bed, starting with some quick meetings, and then getting out on the field and having to get themselves going, and so compete at a much earlier time.
What role are you hoping Desmond Ridder is competing for?
Everybody. Those guys come in here and they earn their reps. And, obviously we lost a quarterback and gained a quarterback, so we got 4 in there in training camp. And he'll get his opportunities right there with Peyton Thorne. And if they earn anything beyond that, that's because they earned it. But right now, he and Peyton will be there at that 3 and 4 spot, and those guys will ease into training camp with those reps.
Is it unique for you, a guy you recruited, and now you bring him here to as a professional to have that relationship?
I just know more about him, know more about his family, and been to his games in Louisville. Brought my wife down there, and we watched a couple of his high school football games. So there's just a background there. But he's in a long line of guys that I had a relationship with before I coach him. So that's not new to me. And you've guys have left here and come back. I've coached guys at other organizations. Maybe had some guys in call. I mean, Randy Bullock was our college kicker at Texas A&M when I got here. So there's always been stories like that. He's a professional now. I think this is his 4th team he's been with. So he's putting his head down and getting to work and trying to learn the playbook as best he can so he can come in and compete.
I know it was years ago, but what do you remember anything?
10 years ago, 9 years ago. Yeah.
Do you remember anything about the interactions with him back then? Anything that stuck out to you about him?
Yeah, absolutely. I was really struggling to find a quarterback in May. That was going to be our first quarterback that we signed. It was really struggling, and our receiver coach, Blake Rowland, who's at Wisconsin now, had said, hey, there is a guy in Louisville. We've watched his tape. You should go watch him work out in person. And so I don't know the Derby lingo, but the Oaks, is that the day before? Am I saying that right? The Oaks. He worked out that morning like 6 a.m. I don't think that was legal, but we did it. And we showed up at Louisville St. X, and he was the first quarterback I watched where he brought receivers. He conducted the workout. He told them what routes. He told me what footwork he was going to utilize. I had been to a lot of workouts where there was a private quarterback coach there dictating the whole thing, and the quarterback was silent and just going through the workout. And so I was pleased to see the leadership from him. I was curious to look. I mean, that obviously translated to UC. Luke Fickell, they made the decision to keep him on and honor the scholarship, and so that was all Luke and his staff. They obviously did a great job developing him. Where does he rank on the all-time winningest college quarterbacks? He's
Top 5.
Top 5, right? That's impressive. So I meant to look that up, and I forgot to do that. But he had a great career, and so again, we're excited to work with him.
Never lost a home game.
Never lost a home game. That's impressive. Yeah.
How much pride do you take in this offense being the best passing offense in the NFL? That's certainly attainable with Jamar, T, and Joe.
Yeah.
Is that something that you put out there and think in your mind, I want to be the best?
Well, I want to win the most games. That's what it is. And so, again, the rankings can fall different ways. Sometimes you can have a incredibly successful year from a win-loss standpoint, and your stats will be down because you were able to play a different style of football. So I don't look at the rankings necessarily. Of course, we always want to be at the top. But not being at the top doesn't mean you weren't as successful. It just means maybe you spent some time in some other areas. But what I do take great pride in, we do not believe that there's any team that invests as much into their passing offense. The time, the checks we can get to, the nuances we have. Our coaching staff does an excellent job, and our players understand it and believe in it, and they've been able to take it to an even further level. So we take a lot of pride in how we've structured this thing. And obviously having your quarterback here now for his 6th year goes a long ways, having T for 6 years. There's been a lot of stability on offense amongst the skill players in particular and our coaching staff that has allowed us to have a lot of success that way.
People use different buzzwords at training camp, right? How hungry is a team? How urgent is it? But you guys set the standard, going Super Bowl, AFC Championship, and then 2 years without making the playoffs. Can you describe the emotion of this team as you start training camp, of where you want to go, and understanding you didn't get there last year?
I think we've got guys in the building that have tasted success and tasted disappointment, and so we know which one is better. And so I think that's whatever word you want to put on that, hunger, urgency, our guys feel that and are motivated by being the best they can be and helping this team win, and we don't want to kind of go through what we went through the last 2 years not making the playoffs.
Did you watch the show Quarterbacks?
I buzzed through the first 2 episodes. Obviously I was with my sons. They wanted to watch the Bengals part, which interested me the most. I like Jared because I coached him. So I watched a little bit of him, and then no offense to Kirk Cousins, I love Kirk Cousins, but I didn't watch any of that. So I kind of skipped through it, and then after 2 episodes, I was good.
You didn't want to watch?
No, I don't like. I don't really prefer to watch myself. We knew Brooks had a picture in there somewhere, so we were kind of the first episode going through to see where that was going to show up because I was getting text that he was on it. We didn't know in what capacity, so we found that, and then they may have watched the rest of it, but I didn't watch it.
So you've now heard from both Bengals team owner Mike Brown and also Bengals head coach Zach Taylor. We now bring in Al Golden to this episode in our conversation with the Bengals' new defensive coordinator. And look, when Zach Taylor decided to make the change and fire Lou Anarumo and bring in Al Golden, it felt like the obvious choice to everybody who follows the Bengals closely. You think about it, Al Golden was on the coaching staff in 2021 when the Bengals went to the Super Bowl and played the Rams. He was a linebackers coach on that team. Al Golden is coming off a very successful season last year as the defensive coordinator in South Bend, helping Notre Dame get to the national championship game. Can he help the Bengals get back to the playoffs with a defense that really needs to improve in 2025? Here is our conversation with new Bengals defensive coordinator Al Golden.
We do it methodically, so we weave it into everything that we do. It's one of our, big 4 core fundamentals. Again, for me, it's a daily process, right? It's teaching it, drilling it, quality controlling it, showing the game application, and then ultimately showing the standard. Do we have standard bearers on this team, or are there guys in the league that do it at a really high level, and what do they do really well? And it's just repeating that cycle day in and day out until our habits improve and we improve defensively. So that is definitely paramount for us, and it's going to be important here. That's the only thing that's going to endure during the year. Come December and January, you got to build those fundamentals now. So we got to make a commitment to it.
Zach said this season he's planning on playing starters more during preseason at this point. Will that help you hope with tackling the issues that you guys have previously had?
Well, it can't hurt. I think the biggest thing is using every opportunity that we get. We drill it in practice amongst ourselves. There's drills in practice where we get to do it against the offensive skill guys. There's periods in practice where it's thud, meaning I'm not tackling you, but my technique and form is perfect until contact. And do we utilize all those reps? Because the aggregate of that is what's going to make us who we want to be. And if we dismiss it as, oh, it's just another play in August or just another play in July, then we're not becoming who we need to become to do what we want to do. So I think the biggest thing is just, do we have a commitment? Do we have leadership from the ground up that understand the importance of it? And games are won and lost on tackling, and certainly games are won and lost on ball disruption, and we have to attack both of those.
Zach said when he made the change to bring you in as defensive coordinator that you were, and as a staff, as a coaching staff, we're going to work like hell to get off to a better start this year. That's been an emphasis.
Yep.
What can you tangibly do, Al, at training camp or in the preseason to help this team play better in September?
Well, there's going to be opportunities, right, for leadership, and whether that's Zach to the team, myself, or Pitch or Darren to our units, position coaches to players, and then ultimately from the ground up, from the players on up. And to give you an example of what opportunities exist are, when you get to Cleveland week, that's not the time to start talking about starting fast. Anybody can do that. Wednesday when we go to practice, starting fast means how do we approach every drill that we do? What's our mindset after a day off? Do we have the type of leadership in the locker room that doesn't matter? We had a day off yesterday, we're going to work today. We're going to start fast this morning. So again, whether that's drills, periods, or days, those are the opportunities that we have to build that habit, to build that mentality, to make it part of our DNA to start fast. And I think from that standpoint, we got to utilize every one of these opportunities and make it second nature by the time we get into the Cleveland week.
Apparently there was a day that Joe Burrow came in to watch film with the defense this offseason. What stuck out about that? What made that so special?
It was my favorite day. You forget as you get older, but it was probably 3 hours worth. We had a big cut-up made, and just wanted to get his insights in terms of how he was seeing things and things that he's looking for, and what made you decide so quickly where to put the ball, who gave it away, those types of things. So that was an invaluable day. I think it's emblematic of our staff in general. Pitch will share ideas with us. Our coaches, on defense, will talk to the offensive coaches and their counterparts over there. We basically have an open book in terms of, when we're scripting, Pitch will ask for certain things. We want to be attacked a certain way in a coverage. And then obviously when you have guys like Joe, the ultimate leader, it takes time in the offseason to sit down with the defensive staff and just share insights. I think all of that really it builds unit strength and builds team camaraderie and team unity. So I think that's important.
Watching the practice tape, was that with Joe?
It wasn't just practice tape. It was a bunch of different looks. I don't know, maybe 60, 70 plays that he just gave us some insights without giving too much away. Just gave us some insights in terms of which guy gave it, this blitz away, or which guy gave that play away or that play away, or hey, I'm going right here with the ball because so and so did this. So I think that when you have a quarterback that's willing to do that, it might cause him some consternation in practice because we fix those things, but it also gives our guys an appreciation for how do we play collectively together and not give certain things away.
Across the football world, you have a reputation of being someone who could help develop young, good defensive talent. How much is Shemar Stewart, if he doesn't play training camp, how much is that going to hurt him?
Yeah, I take so much pride personally in developing players, and you got to develop in every realm, and whether that's through trust, your relationships, the techniques, being really highly organized, showing them players to model their game after, giving them strong examples to help them expedite improvement. All of those things And I just feel like, I'm on hold right now. I can't give him that wisdom or that experience or those gifts. And I think, Jerry feels the same way. And at the end of the day, that's business, and obviously that's between his camp and upstairs. But it doesn't make it easier. I want to work with him. I want to help him be the best he can be and make the greatest impact that he can make. And obviously, the sooner the better for that.
You return to Cincinnati. No Sam Hubbard back now this time. You lose a guy like Jermaine Pratt. How do you address those vacancies positionally, but also looking for other guys to step into those leadership roles as well?
Yeah, I would put that in the same bucket that I just put. How do you develop start fast? Well, those opportunities are going to be out there. It's easy to have leadership, on Wednesday, on day one. But day 8's a little bit different now with the heat and humidity come in, and day 18 certainly, or you land at 4 a.m. What's your attitude the next day in terms of getting your treatments or watching a film or all those things, and we have to have. There's never been a championship defense that didn't have leadership, and leadership comes from the ground up. And I think from that standpoint, there's going to be opportunities. Offense is going to have a good day. Offense is going to have a good period. Offense is going to make a great play. How do we respond? The game is ebb and flows. The game is a game of momentum and stealing momentum back. And you have to have mental toughness. You have to have grit, and you have to have leadership to do that. And sometimes you could provide an example as a defensive coordinator or a position coach, but ultimately those guys look at each other. And there's going to be opportunities for leaders to emerge, and we need leaders to emerge over these next 49, 50 days. And I believe we have the right guys in the building. I'm certain of that. But our DNA, our leadership, it's different every year. And this team's, leadership, our DNA, our identity is going to be forged here in these next 50 days.
Our last conversation in our training camp preview will be Dan Pitcher, the Bengals offensive coordinator, his second season in that role, but not his second season with the Bengals. He's part of the reason that Joe Burrow has taken a step to one of the best quarterbacks, if not the best quarterback in the NFL. In fact, I asked Dan Pitcher if he believes that his quarterback is the best in the league. That's part of our conversation as we start training camp here in Cincinnati with Bengals offensive coordinator Dan Pitcher.
Well, look, there's a standard here when you have the quarterback, the talent you have on offense, of an expectation of playoffs, of winning playoff games, considering what's happened the last couple of years. How would you describe the hunger, the urgency, whatever the word is, for this team to get out there and kind of right the wrong of the last couple of years?
Yeah, I think there's an element of that. I think we've got hyper-competitive people in the building that kind of show up every day feeling that way regardless of the circumstances. But I'd be lying if I said that the circumstances you just laid out don't have some effect on you, because you're right. There are high expectations of us from the outside, but I don't even think they're as high as our own expectations. And so we have not met those. And there is a sense of urgency. And so it just drives you to be your best every day and, make sure that you're not cutting any corners. Not that we have people that would do that. But, we got to come out and we got to play well. We got to play well early.
When the offense, especially last season, was really rolling and the defense wasn't meeting it up to par on a week-to-week basis, and I guess going into this season, hopefully the defense is better. What is your message to the offense when it seems like they're doing everything right?
Yeah, I think it's dangerous to let yourself go there from we're taking care of our part. Well, first of all, it's not really our job to think that way. It's our job to make sure we're getting as close to perfect as we can be. And we're never going to get there, but we're still going to chase it. And so the message is always, what could we have done differently? What could you as an individual have done differently? And not letting that cripple you to the point where you're feeling like if you're not perfect, you're not contributing, but always striving for that. And so that's the message when you go through a portion of time like we went through last year. And so, yeah, hopefully we're not doing that again. I don't think we will be. I got a ton of confidence in our defensive staff. They're going to put our defensive players in position to have success, and we're going to have the same type of success, if not more, than what we had last year.
At running back, Chase Brown really broke out last year, but the rest of that group, Taj spoken very highly out of college. Samaje back, Zach. What does the rest of that running back group look like? What's everyone competing for?
Yeah, I mean, I think in the modern NFL, the running back position normally is really carried out by at least 2 and sometimes 2.5 to 3 people. And that's, I think, how we will move forward. Now, Chase Brown is going to be one of the focal points of our offense because he deserves to be, and he's shown that he's that explosive and he's that talented. And then we figure out where the other guys fit in. So we brought Samaje back for a reason. Samaje was a critical part of 2 deep runs that this team made. He's one of the best pass protecting backs in football. He's very smart. He can see and understand and break down blitz packages akin to a quarterback. You need a guy that can do that in that spot, and that's a big job. And so having a guy that really focuses on that is key. And I think that's not all Samaje is going to do, but that's going to be a big part of what Samaje does. And then, Taj is a bright young rookie, and we'll see. We're hopefully he plays so well that we have to find a way to get him out there.
Where do things stand at guard, and how quickly would you like to have those 2 spots resolved?
Yeah, it's obviously we drafted Dylan early, and he took the first reps at left guard all the way through the spring. We intend on putting Dylan in a position to have the most success that he can have as a rookie in this league, and we know that that's not an easy job, but we're going to challenge him and we're going to give him the tools to have success, and we expect him to respond. And there'll be other guys that work in there. Obviously, Cordell's played a lot of football. He'll continue to work in at left guard as well as a little bit at right. And then we've got Cody and Lucas who I think both will compete really hard, and we'll see what happens. It's a long camp, and those guys are going to have plenty of opportunity to show what they can do. There'll be some mixing and some matching. That's part of this league, and having the depth and the flexibility to be able to play different positions. So the short answer is we'll see. But I know we got a lot of competitive guys that have the ability to help us.
I'm sure you don't want to generalize, and I know obviously no 2 situations are the same, but like Amarius worked out pretty well as a rookie last year on the offensive line. Some other guys obviously don't. What is the biggest separating factor in your mind for rookies on the O-line that work out versus those that don't work out early in their careers?
Well, I think a big part of it is what's their mental makeup. Who is this person that's stepping into our building? The tape tells us who the player is, but who is the person? Can they handle it? Can they handle the mental load of a real in-season game plan? And all the different things that's going to require of them. I think it's not a coincidence that sometimes the guys that have success, not always, come from big-time successful programs that face NFL-like defenses, even in practice, like they do at Georgia. So that's a key. That helps. But it's really about the makeup of the guy, and is he ready for what he's walking into? And that's our job as we evaluate those guys, to make sure we're picking guys that are. And no one's going to bat 1,000, but we like what we have.
Did you see Dylan Fairchild's wrestling video in the Octagon?
It may have come across my device. Yeah.
And what might have been your thoughts on that?
I think he's got some pretty freaky physical traits, and that's a good starting point to becoming a good pro. But it's certainly not the only thing you need. We think he's got the other stuff too, so we'll see.
Everybody's got a list when they talk about the best quarterbacks in the NFL. Do you believe Joe Burrow is the best quarterback in the world?
I do. And it's specifically when you talk about the style of offense that we play, I don't even really think you could. Again, I'm biased. I think you'd have a hard time making an argument, given the way we play football, that there's anybody in the world better. I think he's the best in the world regardless. But obviously there's a lot of other pretty good guys out there too.
When you pair him with Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, wide receiver depth, Mike Gesicki, do you take pride in this passing attack being number 1 in the NFL? Does that number ranking, any of that, matter to you?
No, I think we will be. But what matters to me is that we're putting ourselves in position to play postseason football and win postseason football. And I think being one of, if not the best passing offenses in the league will help us get there. But that's not a driver of my efforts. I want to win. And if winning means that we have to do other things and the numbers don't get us to the top of the league, who cares? I think we'll be there. And I think will be one of the reasons why we do win football games. But winning is what matters.
Zach Taylor said when he made the change from Lou to Al that they were going to work like hell to find ways to get off to a better start this year. Is there anything tangibly you're going to be doing different at training camp to help this team play better in September?
Well, I mean, there's the structural things, obviously, that we are doing as a staff and as a team. The schedule has changed. We're practicing in the morning. You know, I was asked about that back in the spring, and I had a lot of time on the beach to reflect about my answer. And I think I would give a different one now, and that is that, you know, there is meaning in practicing early. We got to play early. We got to show up and play, and we got to show up and coach, and we got to do we have to be at our best from the jump. And, you know, does practicing in the morning mean we're going to be that? No, but you can paint a picture in your mind that can help you get there. You know, show up in the building ready to go. You're not going to have a 4-hour ramp up period where we're figuring it out in meetings and walk through, and we walk through the night before. You walk in the door, you know, in the morning, and your cleats are hitting that grass 45 minutes later, and we're rolling.
So you think there could be a correlation of just like a season, you have to show up ready week one to
Why
win?
Why not? If you convince yourself that that's part of it, then absolutely. I think that can help get you in the right mindset.
Is there a position battle you're specifically excited for this training camp?
I think just there's not one that jumps out. I mean, obviously the spots that are going to require somebody to emerge, right, are the interior offensive line, the guards. And really, we believe that we've got a guy that's going to fill one of those. He has to do the work at left guard, right? But we believe we have, so yeah, that's the one really that exists on our side of the ball. It's that's not to say that other guys aren't going to be able to compete and earn themselves roles, because it's the ultimate, competitive sport, and the best players are going to play. And if somebody stands out and plays so well that they have to get on the field, we're going to put them on the field. But yeah, we'll see how that guard competition plays out, and I'm looking forward to it.
What's next for Andre in year 3?
Yeah, I mean, if he continues on the trajectory that he's been on, it's going to be a guy that people notice, and that's I think he's in a good position, with those other two guys that are going to obviously take a lot of attention of the defense, and I think you see that. That's already shown up statistically in like where and when his production comes. When the defense's efforts are super tailored to our two guys, catches a lot of touchdown passes. That tends to be when teams get really super hyper-focused on your best players. You get closer to the goal line. So I expect him to continue to make the next leap. He does a lot of the dirty work for us. He's gotten bigger. He's gotten stronger. He's embraced that. We're going to need that from him as well. So, excited about Trey.
You all have the guy at quarterback who you said is the best in the world. Beyond that, you add Desmond Ridder. Where does he factor into the rest of that quarterback competition?
Yeah, we think Des will come in here, and obviously we got Peyton Thorne in the room too as a rookie. There's not a ton of reps that exist in past the second group. There are some, and I would anticipate Des really working in there with that third group and seeing how it goes. He's started NFL football games. He's played real football. That's not lost on us. Obviously, he came in here and he had a good workout yesterday. But Jake Brown is a backup quarterback, and we're just excited to see Des develop and see where it goes from there.
He's a really fast runner.
Yep.
Unlike some of the, certainly more so than Logan Woodside. Can that help in practice or the quarterback that practices the other team's offense during the season when you face guys like Lamar?
Yeah, sure, that helps. That's part of why he's a good football player. So. There are certainly things about that skill set that can help the team prepare.
And you heard both Zach Taylor and Dan Pitcher say they don't care about whatever passing stat ranks the Bengals wherever they're ranked at the end of the season. They just care about winning football games. And certainly if this team is winning more games, They're going to have a chance to run some fourth quarters out with Chase Brown and this new running back room of Taj Brooks, who they drafted in round 6, and also Samaje Perine, who's coming back to Cincinnati and was one of the heroes of the team that played in the Super Bowl in the 2021 season. A huge year on deck for the Bengals as they try to get back to the playoffs, believe it or not, for the first time in 3 seasons. Thanks for watching our training camp conversations here on Fox 19 Now.